Good afternoon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations Live. This is your platform where ordinary and extraordinary people share their stories of persistence, resilience, inspiration, education, love, life, and lessons learned. I am your host, Desiree McFarlane, the owner of Legacy HRM, the sponsor of this program. We deliver human resource services your way. Conversations Live is one of those initiatives that we have to encourage persons through the stories of others to be the best version of themselves that they can be. At this time, the world is going through a lot, and it is our intent to encourage and inspire you. This afternoon, I have in studio with me someone very special. He is one of my former classmates, and we left high school in 1987. That's just about 34 years ago. And I'm excited to have Denzil Whyte with me this afternoon in studio. And just before Denzil introduces himself, I want to remind you that in the last 15 minutes of this program, we will be looking at your questions or your comments. Denzil has an inspiring and compelling story, and I'm almost sure that you'll have a few questions or comments for him. Remember that the program is live and we can interact with you. So if you want to say shout out to Denzil, go ahead. You'll have the opportunity to respond. You may see it come across the screen and you can address you directly. Thank you so much for being here. And while you are here, remember to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell and to share. There's somebody who needs to be inspired or wants to be inspired this afternoon, and you can help that person. So do not be afraid. If you're on Facebook or on YouTube, please ensure that you share this link. Thank you so much for being here. Now, this afternoon, we are going to be exploring the topic determined to make a difference. I love it, because there are so many people in this world that have made a difference in their corner, in their career, but we don't hear about it. So this afternoon, we're going to hear about one of those stories. And I'm so excited. So, Denzil, welcome to Conversations Live. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, Desiree. Thank you.
Wonderful. And as we do in Conversations live fashion, we are going to ask you to introduce yourself to our audience. Who is Denzil Whyte?
Well, Desiree, I wouldn't have been able to answer this question probably when I was younger, but now I can. And I believe one of the talents that I've been given is the gift of teaching. So I like to learn because teaching starts with learning. Mm-hmm. And I really am passionate about sharing what I have learned with others. Because of this, I talk a lot. And people used to tell me that I talk too much, a whole lot. I can still remember going to the shop when I was little in De La Vega City, and the shopkeeper's daughter, I'm going to buy chicken back, and she would ridicule me. That is because of the chicken bottom why I talk so much, and I still remember it to this day. Hi, Sharon. Every time I would dread going to the shop because I'm going to have chicken back on the list. And she's going to tell me about my business.
All right. So tell us about your childhood, for example. What was it like growing up as a little kid? Let's talk about even before high school. So a little kid, what was it like?
Okay, so as long as I can remember, I've lived in a big family. And all boys, by the way, and I was in the middle, so I always had persons to look up to. Mm-hmm. Dave and Dwight ahead of me. And I always had persons that looked up to me, Darren and Dino. And I remember the earliest recollection I have with my family is in living in Willardine, where we had to walk through a shortcut. It was very long, actually. It wasn't so short, you know. We had to walk through a shortcut for me to take my little brother to school. And I remember one of the features at that time was Blackheart men. Blackheart man. I know I may sweet it up for, you know. And we used to dread seeing any stranger on that path, because you never know who the Blackheart man is, you know. And it's how we grew up. I always had to be holding someone's hand, and when the time came, there was somebody's hand that I could hold who went ahead of me, you know. And that's how we grew up.
Well, I can identify with the Blackheart man. And there was a man who lived with his mother, and he was kind of a recluse. And we dubbed him the Blackheart man. And he never ever ran after us. But when we got to his gate, I mean, we all held hands, yes, and we ran together. No man left behind. So I can identify. I can also identify being from a large family. I'm actually from a family of 13 children.
Wow.
That's my parents. So that's 15. Right. So I can identify with that as well. So growing up in those days was really, we were not afraid, Denzil, of the gunman.
No.
We were afraid of an invisible Blackheart man. Very, very interesting. All right. So thank you so much for that. So as you reflect on your childhood and then you got into high school, tell us about your journey to high school.
Okay. So I remember the journey to high school would have started with preparing for common entrance, right? And I didn't fancy myself as a very good student in primary school. And so my mother would work very hard to give us the money to pay for the extra lessons. And I remember not going to the extra lessons for over almost the entire term. But my mother decided one day before the end of the term that she was going to visit school and visit the extra lessons teacher, and she asked me to take her where the extra lessons class was at Spanish Town Primary. I took her to Mr. Clark, and she asked Mr. Clark proudly, "How is Denzil doing?" Mr. Clark took out the attendance register, found my name, and he drew his hand across it, absent. I saw the tears running down my mother's face, right? And I did get a good whopping that evening in front of the class, in front of everybody. She beat me. And then put me to sit down in the extra lessons class. And of course, Mr. Clark had his way again, because he beat me after she beat me, right? And the long story short, I never went back to River or Canal or Skull School after that. I was always at extra lessons class after that, because she really fixed my business. And what I feared more the whopping than anything else. I made sure I presented myself at class.
Wonderful.
I didn't think I did so well in primary school or in common entrance. I always looked up to my bigger brother. The brother that I followed was Dwight. And Dwight passed for his first choice, right? So I thought I should pass for my first choice too.
That's right.
The results came out, and I looked through the paper, and I looked through my first choice, my second choice. I don't even remember if there was a third choice, but I looked through everywhere that I wanted to go, and my name wasn't there. And it was my neighbor. It was one of my neighbors who just run up to me and said, Denzil, I'm find your name. Yeah, because I was there crying, think I failed, you know, because it was either you passed or you failed. It was not, yeah, that was how it was at that time. And she found my name on the St. Catherine High. And I still have the cutout from the gleaner. Carl Wickham was the name right below mine.
Oh my God.
Right? And Carl and myself were in class straight through high school together, you know. But so disappointment turned out into laughter as I entered, and even in high school, honestly, I still didn't find my way in high school. I think I was more interested in running after a pretty girl or another, you know, or something like that. It wasn't about school. It was just about surviving the day, you know, when I was in high school. I don't think I really caught up to myself until I left high school.
Wow.
And went to community college, Excel Community College at the time, and did a business administration diploma. When I went to Excel, the teachers looked at me, who I thought was ordinary, and called me sir. Called me Mr. White. And they wanted to hear my opinion on things. It was such a striking difference between primary school and high school, where you are the boy or you're not really anybody. To find that you used to call the teachers sir.
Yes.
Just a month ago. And now the teacher calling you sir, me sir. And it buoyed me up. It made me think that I was somebody. You know, it made me think that I could do anything. And I think that is where I started to really do well. When somebody looked at me and elevated me, you know, from where I saw myself.
Yes. So I just want to relate to some of the things that you were talking about. I did not choose St. Catherine High School. And I chose Queens High School and St. Hugh's. And so they found my name pretty quickly. And unlike you, who was laughing, I was crying. You would think that I did not pass. And in those days, from Kitson High, all-age school, no more than 4 or 3 persons, or sometimes 1 or 2 would pass. So I should have felt very happy that I was going to St. Catherine School. At least I had passed common entrance, but I was very, very sad. But let me tell you, it was one of the best things that happened to me. Wow. St. Catherine High School, even to this day, the motto, prayer and work conquer all, is something that I embrace. I feel connected to my high school. And, you know, you talk about the teacher calling you sir and having faith in you. That started happening to me from all-age school. So unlike you, my parents could not afford the $20 for extra lessons. Wow. I got those free. So I was delighted to go to extra lessons because it was my teachers that saw the potential in me and, you know, wanted to build on that potential. So wonderful story so far. I love it. I love where we're going. So Denzil, you then pursued a certain career. So you went to ExEd and you started studying. And then tell us now about the world of work. How did you get to be where you are today? We want to go from the starting point.
So I finished, and probably even before I talk about finishing ExEd, I was working pretty much from the latter years in high school, right? Because I had to find some things that my parents couldn't find. My family was poor, so we never always I couldn't always get a new pair of shoes when I needed. Right. I remember in being in high school and having a hole in the bottom of my shoes. And because of that, I couldn't put my foot on. I can't put my foot up because then persons will see it. And sometimes you go forget and put it up. You know, sometimes the stone crawl into the shoes from the hole in the bottom, and you're walking on the stone, but you can't really go stop and make anybody else know that you have stone in your shoes, you know. And I always wore shoes that were like much bigger than me because I never got the size that shoes weren't bought for me. It was bought for my older siblings, and them shoes, they never mash up, right? They pass down, you know. And so that was my experience. So like my uncle had a bar in the community, Bugsy, Breadfruit Tree Lawn, and interestingly, I never told you, but my father had a lot of wives. Yeah, you spoke about 15. I probably had 11, but a lot of them were outside, right? And one of my father's wives' brother used to show a movie at the bar on a weekend. And how I used to make money to try to help my family and try to get some of the things that I needed was to actually cook soup the Saturday night when the movie is going on, right? Everybody watching movie, I'm running a soup kitchen, but charging money for the soup, of course, you know. And that went on late in the night, Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, my uncle at the bar and I was doing stock taking. So I would have to wake up early, go to the bar, and so go through all of the liquor, count them off, you know, and checking the bottles to know how many drinks were sold from the different liquor and stuff like that to help to make money. And I have to share a disappointment because I worked like that hard through high school, worked and found the money to buy a suit for my graduation that year. And I'm home now during exam time. I'm not at school. And Ainsley, my cousin, came with somebody one evening and said, Denzil, you know what at my school today? Some of the kids that were at school, the fifth formers, behaved so badly. Those at school, you know, I wasn't even there, right? Those at school behaved badly, and he came and told me no graduation. This is after my work, buy the material, give it out, and make my suit all by myself to make sure I graduate. No graduation.
May I relate a little bit to that story as well?
Sure.
So unlike you, who was not at school, I was at school.
Oh, you're one of them.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I never was. I heard the commotion outside. I did hear the commotion outside. For some reason, I don't know if they had a theme, but apparently all the kids were dressed badly. That's the thing. And so the fifth formers in our year started to laugh at them. Now, as you know, I was a very quiet girl at school, very book oriented, farm prefect and all of that. So I wasn't out there. But I was going to the bathroom, and Miss Ball was our form teacher. And she saw me and she shook her head and said, I can't believe it. I'm going to the bath. I was leaving from the classroom to the bathroom, but there I got caught up in it. And then so that disappointment, I only got over it when for our 30th anniversary, some of the past students came together and did something. I don't think you were there. I can't remember.
I heard about it, but I wasn't there.
Yeah, it was a fantastic thing. And we were able to dress up in our gowns and heels, and we had a fantastic time. And that's when I got over it, to be honest. So I can relate to that story. It was one of the worst things that happened to us in high school. Go ahead.
Right. So I was just saying it was how high school ended for me. There was some amount of disappointment there. Yeah. Right. But I went to XED, wanted to do business administration, did the business administration, did pretty well. Right. I really did well at XED. I got a lot of prizes and awards, which I never got in high school.
Because you were sir, because now someone conferred on you, somebody saw it's important, you know. It is important how we empower people. And I think you felt empowered by someone looking at you and seeing you as someone of worth to refer to you as sir. You saw yourself as an ordinary person, but they saw in you what you didn't see at the time, and it really inspired you. I think so. I think that was a good thing to happen to you at that time, especially with this disappointment from high school, right? To be in a situation where somebody was affirming and empowering you.
And thank you, and I tell you, it made such a difference to actually finish a program and end up being on top of the program and thinking, wow, it means I can do it.
Yes.
So, but still, I had no more money. My parents had no more money. So I had to go and work. And I knew a secretary lived near me in De La Vega city, Arlene. Arlene typed up so many letters. So anything in the Gleaner in terms of wanted, I applied for, right? Arlene typed all of those letters, right? I can't even say how many, but so many letters of application went out. I got an offer from Auditor General, right, to join them at the time, and I already accepted the offer from Auditor General when the Income Tax Department invited me to an interview, and the interviewer was the commissioner then, Miss Distin, and so I'm going into the interview already thinking that I have nothing to lose. I already have a job, right? I have a job offer already, but I'm just going because I applied and she invited me to come in. So I went to the interview. So it was one of the most relaxed interviews I've ever had, right? I'm talking to the commissioner, and the commissioner said she was impressed with me. And then she was asking me if she invested in me, if I would stay with them. And I actually said to her, I don't think you should bank on me staying, because really, I really want to go into business for myself. I'm just thinking I need to work to make enough money to go into business, but I will give you 1 or 2 years and I'll do the best that I can. And she made an offer, and I said, you know, I already have an offer that is more than that. And Miss Distin looked at the numbers and beat the offer that I was made by Auditor General.
Wow.
She beat the offer, and I went to work for her. And it was auditing. I never liked accounts, by the way, in high school. I didn't like it. I found it boring and tedious in high school, but something about being put in a position where you had to find what someone else was doing wrong, because typically that was the focus of audit. Right. Is everything all right? Here are some typical things that they won't do wrong. They typically won't do right. Go through the list, find the error, find the problem, and that problem solving about auditing actually bit me, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much, I kept getting promotions. I kept being promoted and promoted and promoted. And the only thing, I reached a place where I was at a level where the only other place to go is to be a manager, right? And I saw at the time all the persons who had a first degree who joined the income tax department were more or less put through the introductory positions, 6 months or less. They would be promoted and moved, and sooner than later, within a year, they would be in a management position. And I'm like, so the way to management is to get a degree. I decided that I had to get a degree myself. So I applied to UWI. Again, I I couldn't afford to go to school straight. I had to work and go to school. And I'm still poor, you know. And I found myself having to make a choice between having lunch and having enough money to take the bus from downtown, from Eros Circle, to go to Mona. There wasn't online school at the time, you know. So I had to find my way to Mona, then find my way back to Spanish Town. And I had to choose between lunch and bus fare to go to school. If I had lunch, I couldn't go to school. It was one as simple as that. And it meant that I had to ensure, thank goodness for my mother, who was still making a nice breakfast in the morning, you know, that it had to keep me. It had to keep me until I got home in the night, right? To get something else to eat. And lunchtime, I would get up from my desk and walk down East Street, and persons wouldn't know that I am not having lunch, because I didn't want everybody to know. I wasn't a beggar, you know. I wanted to try to do it myself, you know. And I made it. I made it in doing school part-time, and I finished within the period that you would finish for full-time. So I was doing extra courses during the part-time. Persons would do probably 2 courses. I'll be doing 3, 4 courses, almost a full-time course load in a part-time capacity. Summer persons would be doing 1 course. I'd be doing 3 courses in the summer, right? And still I was getting A's, right? And I did so well in my bachelor's in accounting and management, double major, that I got a scholarship to do my master's from you. Yeah, I got a scholarship from you to do my master's there because of how well.
All right, before we get into the masters, I just want to comment on some of the things that you went through up to this point. And I also want to highlight the role of other persons, again, who saw something in you that they were willing to invest in it. And then your own ambition, Denzil, to say, I'm looking around. And that's what I did when I went to high school. The first thing when I saw people in blue and white, and I wanted to know why. And I heard that they had subjects, and I wanted some. So I can identify with you when you realize that, okay, people are moving up, and you were not content to say, okay, I'm going to just work. Because, you know, some persons say, I'll work myself up, and the experience is going to go there. You recognize what is required to get there, and you did it. And you did it at great sacrifice. My sacrifice actually started in high school. There were days, if not months, I didn't have lunch. All my parents had was my taxi fare, pretty much. And I went to school, and like you, at lunchtime, I disappeared. Nobody knew where I was because I was not going to beg. I was not going to beg. Unfortunately, maybe I should have, because I developed an ulcer stomach from just being hungry. But I was hungry for something else. The same thing that you're talking about. Determined to make a difference, to be different for my family, for myself, for my community. I saw myself being given the opportunity to go to high school from my community as a responsibility that I needed to succeed. So let's get on with the masters now. Back to your story. Just wanted to relate some aspects of your story.
But may I just say that even with your story, I knew you in high school, and you were the cleanest, neatest girl around, right? I never imagined that you could have wanted in any way. It didn't show on you at all. Right. And that was amazing. When I heard your story for the first time, I could not believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I never saw it. Right. You never showed it. It's true what you're saying. You never showed it.
Yeah.
you know.
We don't have to wear we don't have to wear on our sleeves what we're
Mm-hmm.
going through. I
Mm-hmm.
think a sense of purpose and even a sense of pride in self,
Mm-hmm.
and having that understanding that I'm going through this to get to where I want to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the road that is going to lead to where I am determined to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to make all the sacrifices, bear the hunger, bear anything with my head up. Because you see, Denzel, if we had held our heads down, you see, if while you were cooking your soup and while I was selling for my parents at the school gate in summer, right? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it. We didn't like it,
Mm-hmm.
but it ensured that we could go to school. It ensured that we could get little things for ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so we did it with the knowledge that one day, if we continue on the path of education, we would get there. And that was my focus. I wanted to be somebody, and
Mm-hmm.
education was the way out, and nothing was going to stop me.
I started out like that in terms of record. I didn't see the thing that I was doing.
Mhm.
I saw what doing this could get me,
That's right.
where it could get me. It was like a bridge,
Hmm.
a mode of transportation. So that's how I saw it. I did see it like that.
Hmm.
But something about school, I mean, going to school and looking at school in a different way. You know, primary school, I thought school could have been a problem. Sometimes it was about the teacher holding the belt over her back and you spell the word wrong and you get a slap. That's how they
Hmm.
used to do it around in circles.
Hmm.
Private lessons was like that too. You had to know the thing. If the teacher asked you a question, you just had to know it. It felt pressuring. And I was trying to get away from that. When after the EXED experience and I went to UE, I entered UE with a different mindset altogether, right? And
Hmm.
school then became enjoyable. You know, it was learning all the things I never knew, you know,
Hmm.
and I so enjoyed the experience. I mean, I was so much into it. You know, I was asking all the stupid questions, ensure that I understood everything because I was aiming for 100% in every single thing I did
Hmm.
at UE. That was how I was approaching it. Some
Hmm.
persons were there seemingly their parents were paying their way, but for me, it was just get as much as you can because these are the tools you're going to need to go out there and work. When I learned something in school, I can tell you, I never left it at school. When I
Hmm.
learned something in school and I went into the workplace, and remember I was working at the same time.
Hmm.
So I was implementing the things at work, right? I was doing the things that I learned at school in the workplace, and it was paying off. It was impacting on how I was doing at the workplace as well. And
Yes. Just a
yeah.
moment. That's the advantage. That is the advantage of those of us who worked and studied at the same time, in
Mhm,
that we were able to utilize what we were learning. And when we see it work, we want to go back to school and learn more. I
mhm,
think some of us are much better off than those persons who went straight through to university to the masters and then enter the world of work.
mhm,
But for us who had to work and study, I found that to be an advantage too when I was doing my first degree. That
mhm,
I could relate to some of the concepts because I was using them on the job. And
mhm.
now I was able to use my studies to to do better at work, to have a better performance then, because now I know exactly how to do it. Maybe at the time I was trying to do the best I can, but now I actually know the principles to apply.
Right.
Fantastic. So you started talking about getting the scholarship to do
Right.
your masters. So let's get into that part of your story.
So I got the scholarship to do my master's and I took it. It meant that my fees were paid. It meant that I was getting a stipend, and it actually involved some work because I had to tutor as
Mhm.
well at the same time. But interestingly, even in tutoring, I gained, because as I went over the topics in undergrad, because I was doing tutoring and even teaching in undergrad, while I was doing the masters as part of the program. When I taught Finman in to the undergrad program, it meant that when Mr. Roof was teaching Finman in the graduate program, the concepts were easier. I'd gone over them so many times, so it made it a lot easier. And the master's program went off, and I finished first in among the cohort in the masters in accounting at the time. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I felt like I could have been a career student. It was so enjoyable. you know I mean, so persons will look at me and wonder how come. I mean, I woke up, went to school, even if I didn't have a class, went to the science library, got a cubicle, they had a booth.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not having class, I'm studying.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Right? Straight through the day. Class is finished and I'm there till 5 o'clock before I left. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just into school and learning as much as I can. And it was awesome. It was good. I learned a whole lot, and I've been using what I've learned.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into Conversations Live. This is the program where ordinary and extraordinary people share their inspiring stories. And this evening, we are with Denzil Whyte, and he's talking to us about his journey. And one of the things that I have gained from this story, it doesn't matter where you start. When you recognize, when somebody shows you that you are of immense worth and value, that can be very powerful in inspiring you to do more or achieve more than you ever thought that was possible. So let's get back to Denzil's story. So Denzil, let's talk now about your career. Let's pivot to your career, what you have been doing. We've talked a lot about education, and I think there's absolutely more to say. And we also have a question. I saw a question, so we don't have a lot of time, but we have a lot to cover. So let's talk about your career. What after that first job, where's life brought you? What have you been doing?
All right. So I spent 16 years in tax administration, right? I left as a manager for the large case audit team in Region 2 and TAJ at the time. And at the time, I was a member of IROC, the Interpretation, Rulings and Opinions Committee of TAAD at the time. It wasn't TAJ yet, right? But I left income tax department for KPMG.
Okay.
I joined KPMG as a tax manager, right? Coming from the tax department, having a master's in accounting. And by the way, the minute I finished my master's in accounting, I joined the taxation committee of the ICAJ, and I've never stopped serving on that committee. I've been on that
Can you
committee.
just tell my audience, what does the ICAJ mean? What
Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Right. That's the ICAJ. So I left TA. I left tax. I left the tax department and went to KPMG. And what I found was that it was a whole different landscape in terms of being from the perspective of trying to find fault, because that's what you do on the side of TAJ, right? You try to find error, right? And as fun as it was to try to find the errors, where I really found joy was when I went into a situation where I needed now to find solutions. So I now needed to serve the clients who were here and wanted to be somewhere else in relation to their tax efficiency. And myself and the other members, the other team members at KPMG had to come together to try to find the solution, right? We were building bridges, so bridges to go over all of the traps and the anti-avoidance potholes that was embedded in the legislation. Bridges to take the persons from a high tax situation to a reduced or improved tax efficiency, as we would call it. Yes. And it was rejuvenating. You go to work and you have problems put in front of you, and then you and your team had to find solutions to the problems. And believe me, it meant even when I'm sleeping, I would wake up with a solution. Wake up, I need to make sure I type it because I might forget it, right? You're into singing. I did some songwriting myself at one point in time. And if you get the song in a dream, you need to tape it right away. I had to get up, find the tape recorder and tape it, because if I didn't, I wouldn't remember it in the morning. The same thing happened with some of the solutions. You lived it, you dreamt it, and you took it back to work. And the care and the vigor and the robustness with which KPMG went about how they did what they did. Betty Ann Jones, Norman Rainford, so some of those persons, when you worked with them, you learned a whole lot. I did learn a whole lot myself.
You're schooled again. Again.
Exactly, into a new craft, by the way. Now came the time when I was given an opportunity to leave KPMG because an opening came up for a group taxation and regulatory reporting manager with one of the biggest finance companies in the Caribbean. And I thought to myself, I was interested in finance, right? Before I went to KPMG, I was trading heavily on the stock market. Joined KPMG, couldn't trade anymore because they were auditors for most of the persons who were listed. So I had to give up the shares. If they weren't auditors locally, they might have been auditors internationally. So I kind of just moved away from that. But I always had a love or passion for finance. I taught finance at UWI, by the way. And so when the opportunity came, I decided to take it. And I went to NCB, and I went there for 4 years. And can I tell you, I thought when you move from government and then went into auditing in the private sector, that you knew everything. But when you go into industry now, another picture altogether.
Yes,
a totally different picture, because now the principles are different, the rules are different. And I saw a totally different side of things, because now I'm serving the client as the client, not as the auditor or the advisor. Yes. As an advisor, certain things but you can't tell the client because it might be too aggressive, right? When you're the client and not the auditor, you explore a lot more. The breadth was different, right? And depending on the advice, always had to be tailored for the user and the risk appetite of the user, and the what the user wanted to achieve. So I really saw a new side again. And I flourished in that. I really enjoyed that as well. But I reached a place at NCB where I thought to myself, being a tax specialist, not among other tax specialists, would mean I would either always remain a tax specialist at that level, right? Because there wasn't a position for a tax specialist higher, or I would have to change. When I looked around me at NCB and I saw all of the great minds that were there ahead of me in banking, right? I thought to myself, as a businessman, I would give them the job over myself. Right. So I thought my odds were better going back into the audit environment. Right. So I moved back.
Yeah, and that is so important to evaluate, right? You may be in a good job, but you have the ambition to move. You want to go further, and you're realistic about it. What are the chances that I am the new guy, that I'm the one who is going to be selected? When you can see that the company is preparing other persons, and so you make the move, and that is something that we need to talk to our audience about. It is absolutely necessary to be realistic about our ambitions, to be realistic about where we are. Too many times I've had conversations with people who are talking about, I see other people moving and I'm not moving. And I said, maybe those people were being trained. They're not seeing in you what you see in yourself. So you have to find other alternatives. No, your talent does not belong to that company. You can take it elsewhere and use it, and you can grow the way you want to grow. If you're planted somewhere you're not growing, uproot yourself and go and grow somewhere else. So
may I say that I've never seen myself as an employee. I've always seen myself as a service provider, and it just depends on how many clients I have at the time. Sometimes I have one client, right, which is an employment relationship, right? Sometimes that employment relationship might be a group that I have a lot of clients, or I'm going to be in a chartered situation where I have hundreds of clients, you know. But I've never seen myself as merely just an employee. As I've always seen myself as a service provider. Even now, I provide services in a chartered manner. The question is it a long-term contract or is it a short-term contract? But the bottom line is I have a set of skills. I have some resources that I think are marketable, and I'll serve you as a client once we are serving each other's interest. Right?
Yes. So there was a question earlier. I think the question was, how do you perform when you're hungry? If we could have that question back up, we would try to respond to it. How do you push forward in studies, etc., while hungry? What is the motivation during that moment besides the ultimate goal? What kept you going?
It's always the end result. I am there for a reason, right? I wanted to have upward mobility. I believed I could do more. I could take on a more challenging job. But the persons who were giving out the jobs were not looking just for the person who could do it. They wanted the person with the degree. So the only way I'm going to get that job is to get the degree.
Invest in yourself.
Exactly, and I never had the money. Let me tell you how you do it. There's this thing called the white crackers, right? It not tastes nice, but 2 of them can fill up your belly, so you don't feel the hunger so much, right? And the thing called water. It's cheaper than juice, yeah. And ambition. When you want to get somewhere, I'm telling you, sometimes when the classes went too long or when the buses took too long to come, sometimes it hit you, because you might have bargained that you would reach home by 9:30. But every time it don't work like that all the time. So sometimes it never worked perfectly, right? It never worked perfectly all the time. But the most important thing is that you had to see you had to have sight and vision of the ultimate goal. And when you had sight of the ultimate goal, it made it easier.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lydia. Great question. And I want to add to that, the motivation to keep going is, what are the alternatives? If I don't do this, I stay where I am, I'm not earning enough. Hmm? Or in my case, in high school, I do not get my subjects, which were going to get me into university to get the job that I want, right? So you have to choose. It's really logically choosing that if I do not do this, if I do not make this sacrifice for myself, even if sometimes it's your health. In my case, my parents didn't want me to go hungry. They just couldn't do any better. It was just the way that we were in those days. But look at us now, right? Look at us now. We pulled through, we pushed through, we made the sacrifices, and it paid off. Denzil, what would you say to
May I
a
add something though,
yes,
Desireen? Just
yes,
one more thing.
yes.
Another thing that will help you is where you are at right now, right? When you look at the room that you're in and think that you want to have a wife, you know, how may I afford a wife in my mother house, in our one room, right?
Yes. Yes.
If you saw the space that I was living in, I wanted a wife.
Yes.
You know, I wanted a family. I wanted a car. You know, I didn't want to take the bus. You know, I wanted more. And when you want more, when you hunger for something more than just food, it will help you to go through.
Absolutely. And the chances of you winning the lottery is zero, right? You're not holding on to those things that might happen. You're doing something that you know will happen. Did you find it hard to pivot from finding faults to finding solution? How was it for you? Is Jerome's question. So remember, yes.
Okay. All right. So it was a process.
Yes.
It was a process because I remember starting out finding faults even while I'm supposed to be finding solutions. And I had to be reminded, remember who you're working for, right? You're not working for over there, you're working for over here. And then what I started to do was to find the faults and then find the solutions for the faults, right? So it wasn't just the faults, and it got better with time. So practice did make a difference.
Yes. And our experience does drive sometimes what we do. And as you say, you have to stop and say, oh, no, I'm on the other side. Go ahead.
Right. So it took time and took counseling, took mentorship and support from our partners and colleagues in the work environment.
Oh, that is fantastic. Again, no matter where we are, I'm a consultant right now, and I'm still learning from others. You still need a network of persons to mentor you, to help you. I do a lot of research from people who have done research to learn from them. So that's another thing. You have some young people who are out there in the world of work and they think they have arrived. They know everything. But you're saying, even when you get to the top, you still need people to help you. You're still learning. Yes, you have the letters behind your name, but still there is room for learning. And I think that is absolutely important. So we have just about 5 minutes. And I want to ask you about how would you encourage a young person using your story? What would you say to a young person who right now is saying, well, it appears that I'm not going to get all the CXCs that I want because it's too late. How would you encourage that person to keep going and to keep trying? What would you say to that young person?
Well, there's an aspect of my life that we didn't cover so far that I'd like to raise now that helped me to push ahead. And it is deciding to become a Christian, right? Because after leaving high school, in high school, they had a sort of crusade thing where they had a film show, Burning Hell, that they had at the school, right? I don't know how many persons in 87 remembered that, but it started me thinking. And so it was the first step in me thinking I probably need to do something about my life. But the bottom line is that I reached a place where I decided to make Jesus the Lord and Savior of my life. And one of the things that I've taken from my Christian journey is what I call the David principle. The David principle for me is, if you see something that is not going right, the more it hurts or bother you, the more it means that you need to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody else won't change the thing that bother, if the floor look too dirty for you to be in the room, it means that you are being called to sweep it. Right? And I saw that in the way how David approached the Goliath problem. This is a problem. I want to not do anything about it. Well, I'm going to stand up. So my encouragement to the young person is, be the difference that you would like to see. Right? Don't blame anybody else. Your parents never did this. This person is against you. You don't have to. You can choose the blaming road, you know. You can choose to be the difference. You can choose to be part of the solution. You can choose to put yourself in the situation where you are going to face the giant, even if you are going to face that giant alone, right? And if you trust God in the process, right, while you face these giants, I believe the same way He delivered David and He delivered others before us, He will deliver you, right?
Absolutely.
So be the difference and hold on to the hand of somebody bigger than you who can help you along the journey that you believe is something that you need to make a change about in this world.
Fantastic. Denzil, thank you so much. Somebody said they wish we could go for another hour, but we don't have that time. So Denzil, you have been a leader. So in the next couple of minutes, I give you 2 minutes to talk about this leadership and your fitness. I follow you on Facebook and you are into health. So I want you to take 2 minutes and talk about both of them.
All right, so 2 minutes. Whoa, what a challenge! But let's try. So my journey towards fitness started with my father becoming incapacitated, and I felt like I could do anything. So I was lifting him from place to place, bed to chair, chair to bed, moving him, right? And in moving him, I did sciatica, right? And it meant that I had pain going as far down as my toe. And when I went to the physiotherapist said, it's not your toe, you know, it's not your foot bottom, it's your back. But the worse it get, the further down it went, right? And so I had to face that. And I had a good physiotherapist in Michelle Johnson Rowe. She heads the physiotherapist department at Spanish Town Hospital. And she gave me some routines to do. And we had so many sessions I can't count, right? And those workouts were what actually got my pain to stop. Yeah. And I found out, I felt complacent after I worked out and the pain stopped. But you see, as soon as I slip into complacency, the pain started again. So I had to run back and start to exercise again. And it meant that I had to develop my own exercise program, right? And kept pushing because I don't want the pain. I don't want the pain in my back, you know? Yeah. And it meant that I started running and I loved success. If I ran 1 week and next week I ran, I beat the time. I want to beat the time the next week after that.
All right.
It just kept me going.
Okay. So Denzil, we want to keep going, but we're out of time. I think we're going to have part 2. I believe that we're going to have part 2. I have been so inspired by your story. And there's somebody online who is saying the same thing. You know, this is great, but we have run out of time. And I want to thank you so much for being here this afternoon, for sharing your story with us. For me, I've seen determination, I've seen persistence, I've seen resilience, I've seen empowerment, I see mentorship. I see the value of education. I see the value of loving what you do, and most importantly, loving yourself and having goals and dreams that you're willing to work towards. Thank you so much for being here, determined to make a difference, and you are making a difference. And this afternoon, you have made a difference in the lives of many people who are currently on and those who will come after to watch this program. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Conversations Live. This is the platform where ordinary and extraordinary people share their stories of persistence, resilience, education, love, life, and lessons learned. And this afternoon was no exception. Thank you for joining us. And if you're here and you're not a subscriber, please remember to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that the next time when we do Denzil Part 2, you will be notified. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, and all the best until next time when we will be right here live. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.